Turn off the lights, close your eyes, and get ready for another scary story to fall asleep to. This one takes us to a house that shouldn't exist. Most people pass by every day without even realizing it. It doesn't have a name. The locals just refer to it as Dagger Lane. It's just a road that leads into the woods. In the middle of nowhere in a small town in Pennsylvania, there's an unmarked dirt path. They say if you go down this road after dark, you'll eventually come across a house that only appears at night. There's no GPS pin for it, no mailbox, just a large black gate that isn't there during the day. But when the sun goes down, it mysteriously appears. Smoke curled from its chimney, and a warm yellow glow emanated from within. For a moment, Jacob stood stunned, unsure if what he was seeing was real or just a figment of his imagination. The streetlights from the nearby town cast an eerie glow on the tarmac, but it didn't reach far into the woods. Then he walked up the path toward the front door and knocked. He waited, but nobody answered. He tried again, still nothing. He wandered into the living room, which was furnished with a comfortable-looking sofa and armchairs. An ornate coffee table sat in the center of the room, and sunlight streamed through the windows, illuminating motes of dust dancing in the air. He followed the sound to a room with French doors, where a grand piano sat bathed in sunlight. The music was beautiful, haunting, and it seemed to be playing all by itself. He froze, his blood running cold. He knew he was alone, or at least he thought he was. He spun around, searching for the source of the voice, but saw nothing. It had come from the doorway. He was sure of it. So it was completely dark beyond a few feet from the road. He was about to call it quits when he spotted a grandfather clock in the corner of the room. Its pendulum was swinging gently, and he noticed something strange. It was counting down. He tried to dismiss it, telling himself that it was just a trick of his mind. But then he heard a voice. It was as if no one had been here in years, yet everything was perfectly clean and tidy. It was just an old clock, right? But then he realized it was counting down to 0. He watched in disbelief as the seconds ticked away. He felt a sense of dread wash over him, a feeling that he was being watched. But still, there wasn't a single sign of life. The walls were painted a pale blue, and a crib stood in the corner, a teddy bear sitting atop it. Instead, he found himself inside a pristine foyer with a chandelier hanging from the ceiling and a staircase spiraling upwards. The door behind him slammed shut with a bang. But as he did, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. He kept walking, trying to put the whole thing out of his mind. But he couldn't help but wonder what had happened to him in that house. But when he did, he found himself staring into a solid brick wall. He tried to push it open, but it wouldn't budge. He was trapped. He turned and stared at it, surprised by the sound. And remember, not every home is a safe one. You've just heard one of our scary stories to fall asleep to, and if you walk past it, you'll find yourself face to face with a house that shouldn't exist. In its place was just a dirt road and a stand of trees. He stood up, brushing himself off, and checked his phone. He had missed calls and messages from his friends, but it wasn't long enough for them to be worried, so he texted them back, letting them know that he was fine. Most nights the road remains empty, but every once in a while, local teens will gather at the end of the road and tell ghost stories about what lies ahead. He was an amateur urban explorer, someone who loved to discover abandoned homes and forgotten places. He sat up, his head pounding, and looked around. This was his favorite pastime, and he had stumbled across some pretty terrifying places over the years. But none of them scared him as much as the idea of a house that could only be seen at night. So of course, when Jacob heard these rumors, he had to check it out for himself. It took him several attempts to locate the road in the middle of all the others. But finally, on a night just like any other, he found it. He parked his car at the end of Dagger Lane, grabbed his backpack, which was filled with cameras and flashlights, and started walking. Owls hooted, crickets chirped, and leaves crunched under his feet. And just as he began to think it was all just a bunch of BS, he saw it. At first, there was nothing there. All he saw was the dark road stretching out before him and the trees lining either side of it. He continued walking, though, and as he did, he could hear the sounds of the forest all around him. At the end of the road was a white house with light spilling out from its windows. He started recording with his camera and snapped a couple of photos. He reached out and pushed open the door, expecting to be met with a musty, cobwebbed entryway. Then he shrugged it off and started exploring. But there was something strange. Despite the amount of light in the room, there was no dust. He explored further, finding a dining room with a long wooden table set for a meal, kitchen with state-of-the-art appliances, and several bedrooms with neatly made beds. He even went upstairs, examining the rooms one by one, until he came across a nursery at the end of the hall. He was just about to leave when he heard it, a soft melody playing on a piano. There were no visible speakers or electronics anywhere in the house. It was soft, barely a whisper, yet he could hear it clearly above the piano music. It said, "Welcome home." He hadn't heard anyone else in the house, yet when he looked back, there was nothing there but empty darkness. At first he didn't think much of it. The music from the piano seemed to grow louder, and the scent of fresh-baked cookies filled the air. Yet he was still alone. As the clock ticked ever closer to 0, the lights in the room began to dim, casting long shadows on the walls. He turned and fled, rushing down the stairs and toward the front door. But when he got there, he found that it was no longer there. He pounded on the door, but it was solid, like it was made of brick. He ran to the window and looked out, hoping to find another way out. He screamed, his voice echoing through the empty house. But no one came to help. As the clock struck 0, he blacked out, falling to the ground in a dead faint. When he woke up, he was lying on the grass outside the house. The house was gone. He then started walking away from the forest, planning to never look back. He glanced over his shoulder, half expecting to see the house standing there, but it was gone. And why had it appeared to him, and him alone? The locals say once you visit the house at the end of Dagger Lane, it eventually finds its way back to you, wherever you are, whenever it wants you back. Some places aren't haunted, they are the haunting. Good night.